So a lot of you guys already know that I have a second channel, Luke Stevens Live, where we talk about games, live stream, all of that stuff. It's a really good time. You should sub. But today, while we were on stream, something interesting happened. I was rambling about something, I guess, when a notable and recognizable face came into chat. If I enhance, who is that? Corey Barlog, the man, the myth, the legend, was in chat hanging out. Now, I initially thought that this was a phony, a fake fraud of a Corey, but it turns out, no, this is, in fact, the one and only Corey Barlog. So I've, for one, been geeking out over that. Thank you for watching, Corey. Secondly, this got me thinking, what is Santa Monica up to? Where is God of War right now? Because of course we had the Valhalla experience that was dropped for free for players of God of War Ragnarök, which was a really cool, unique, free update. But since then we've heard not much. So I decided to dig into the rumors, the leaks, the speculation as to the future of God of War as a franchise, because there's been some rumors that in the last few days have seemingly been debunked and discredited by the very people who initially put them out. And now it looks like the future of God of War is a little bit different than we expected. Still good, but different. So buckle up, we're gonna talk about it. And sorry, Corey, you come into chat. I mean, I've gotta talk about God of War now. Like, you forced my hand. You left me no choice. And of course, a thank you to our sponsor, The Sinking City 2. That's right, if you're not aware, the developers of the original Sinking City are making a sequel that they are kickstarting right now. Frogwares is the independent studio based in Ukraine that's been making games for the last quarter century, and these are the guys behind the original Sinking City and of course the Sherlock Holmes games, which you're probably familiar with. And as you can see, they are actually doing a fundraiser on Kickstarter right now to fund the development of The Sinking City 2, and they've already met their goal and exceeded it a good amount. But you can get in on this too if you want to support the small indie studio and the production of this crazy 1920s Cthulhu Lovecraftian survival horror game. You guys know me, I love Lovecraftian horror just in general. I love the 1920s setting. I love wild, bizarre, suspense, thriller, horror stuff. I don't even know how to describe it, but basically the aesthetic of the original Sinking City. And I actually thought the original Sinking City was a really solid game, and they're looking to make improvements across the board with the sequel. So if you're interested in supporting them, check them out at the link in the video description box below. And even though the funding goal was hit in under 2 hours, they are still accepting pledges, even some that include physical collector's editions and things like that. Not to mention, we have also partnered up on a giveaway for one of the collector's editions of the game. So if you're interested, check out the link below and you get to enter into that giveaway where you can win a collector's edition and a bunch of other cool, rare physical objects and things that have to do with the game when it releases. Again, enter the giveaway at the link in the description box below, and that way you can also check out the Kickstarter and support them if you are interested. Okay, so God of War is in, of course, a fascinating spot. It's one of the biggest IP that Sony has at their disposal. They, of course, had God of War Ragnarök, which was a tremendous success for them. And Santa Monica Studio right now pretty much can do whatever they want to do. But what's particularly interesting to me is that everybody kind of just assumed with 2018's God of War that we were getting set up for like a big trilogy, that we were going to have 2018's God of War, and then we're going to have Ragnarok, and then a third game that's like Uber Ragnarok or something. But instead, it seems that they merged the second game and the third game together. So instead of a trilogy, we got a duology, which is still great. But I think they did it specifically because they didn't want to feel like they overstayed their welcome in the Norse setting, which I actually think is a really good idea. Having 3 games that are dozens upon dozens of hours long, all set in the same setting with the same core cast of characters, the same weather, the same mechanics. It can get old and samey even if it's really good to begin with. And if you played God of War Ragnarok, and certainly the free update with Valhalla as well, you know that they pretty well tied up in a nice little bow the story of the Norse saga, as it's been called, which frees them up to do something new and different. And this is where we come to the question of the future of God of War. What are they going to do next? There were rumors and speculation that perhaps they were going to do a spin-off Atreus game. They seemed to kind of set that up really nicely, like they were going to do a standalone game with Atreus, kind of like a Miles Morales spin-off game or a Lost Legacy spin-off game for Uncharted. but with Atreus as the protagonist. It's not really clear how that would work with him not being the god of war like Kratos, but maybe it could. Maybe. But that was pretty much all just speculation. There wasn't really anything concrete to go on. There weren't insiders leaking anything. It was just something people were speculating about because it seemed to make sense. Another thing that just kind of made sense would be that they were working on another main game. Even if they were working on a spin-off game, they probably would be working on the next major entry, the new saga for God of War. And it only made sense that they would go and explore Egyptian mythology. Now, before you say it, I know Kratos has already been to Egypt. In the comic book series thing that they ran, they actually showed Kratos traveling to Egypt, and there's a whole storyline there that I won't spoil for you, but they've explored it in concept at least, but not in a game. And if you know anything about me, I am like a hardcore nerd when it comes to ancient Egypt. Like I of course even have like a pyramid in the background of my studio. Sometimes the mic covers it, but I have a pyramid. Like I love ancient Egypt. I love Egyptian mythology. It's just what I geek out over. I mean, I find it fascinating. I love it. And so the idea of getting like a full AAA production God of War game in Egyptian mythology, it's like so crazy cool to me. I would die of happiness if they were to do it. And it seems like they probably will eventually go to Egypt. We don't know for certain, but we do know that there's been some leakers that have said they've seen like postings for casting calls for Middle Eastern actors, which presumably would be cast in roles within this game that is set within Egyptian mythology and all of this stuff. And so there's reason to believe they're actually working on it, but that certainly is a massive project. Whenever you go to a totally new area, a totally new architecture, a totally new climate, like everything has to be redone. All of the assets have to be redone. All of the sound design has to be redone. Everything has to be reworked. So it will take a while. And a good long while could mean, you know, we see it next year. It could also mean we see it in 3 years or 4 years, which leaves a massive hole in the lineup for Santa Monica, because it seems like they don't want to just let the IP sit with nothing all that time. And this is where we come to the current rumors for something that's coming very, very soon in the God of War franchise. As I mentioned earlier, one of the expectations was that they were going to do an Atreus spin-off game, kind of like Miles Morales or The Lost Legacy. And that just makes sense. It's a smaller project. It's something that could easily give them a little bit of cash. It's a project that's a little tighter in scope, so it allows you to experiment with some new tech and things like that without the full pressure of a massive AAA release. And this is something that Sony has had a lot of luck doing, again, with those two other examples of smaller spin-off projects. Except the one thing is, nobody ever could corroborate the idea of an Atreus spin-off game. It just was something that seemed lined up narratively that Atreus was going to be the protagonist because of how they ended Ragnarok. Again, no spoilers, but it seemed to be like right there. It seems like that was what they were going for. But recent rumors and speculation actually suggests something totally different. You see, I have two little tidbits that suggest that the next God of War project is potentially coming this year. That's right. And it will potentially be a prequel God of War game set in Greece with a young Kratos and with the story revolving around Kratos' relationship with his own father, where he literally becomes the boy. Which sounds interesting. I'm honestly, I'm not super mad about it. As always, this is just rumor and speculation, so all of this literally could just be made up. I want to be very, very clear. So, don't write any checks. Don't invest your life savings in God of Boy coin. Maybe pause, pump the brakes a little bit, but it's still interesting and I want to show it to you. The first thing to understand is that Jeff Grubb, who is an insider who has shared a bunch of leaks and rumors about all sorts of different games in the past, he initially was talking about a God of War remaster collection. Basically, the rumor was that they were going to do a collection of the original God of War games. They were going to put them together and remaster them, get them updated, and they'd look a little bit better and run a little better, and then they'd release them and sell them back to us as a part of a celebration for the 20th anniversary. Well, the 20th anniversary came and went, and basically what we got was a collection of armor sets and skins for God of War Ragnarök, which look really good, don't get me wrong, but this is far from like a Greece collection of the original 3 games and maybe even some of the spin-off games, which, it's a free update. I mean, beggars can't be choosers. You literally can't complain. It's free. But this was surprising because people were expecting a little something more. And a lot of the rumors were saying something more was going to happen that was related to Greece. Something related to Greece was going on in the background. And Jeff Grubb followed up on this after about a month went by and said, okay, everyone keeps asking about this, so I've tried to find out more. There's still a Greek God of War thing coming out this year, but it's not a remaster collection. It's a new side story project. I was never told about a remaster collection, but I asked a source about the rumors that I saw were focused on a collection, and they told me that nothing God of War would happen at the State of Play, but something could show up at the anniversary, which evidently, like, we did get something, but not like the big thing. And to be clear, this is something that Jeff Grubb posted on March 22nd. But what's the other source? What's the other thing that could point to this? Well, it's actually a clip from a podcast as part of the Insider Gaming Weekly show. If you don't know Insider Gaming, it's the gaming news website that has all sorts of sources and has a pretty impressive track record when it comes to leaking data and details around games that are upcoming. And I'll let Tom Henderson talk. Okay, so we're gonna listen to this together. I just want to be clear, in this moment, he's talking about the next God of War project. How the next God of War project is not the one that's set in Egypt. It's not the Egyptian one. It's something else, which is presumably this spin-off game that's releasing this year. So let's listen.
And from what I've been told, that it isn't set in Egypt. It's actually set in Greece. And it is going to be
they're returning.
Yeah, and it's going to be a younger Kratos this time.
Baby Kratos.
So I don't know. Yeah.
Boy disappointed so bad. The boy was such a disappointment. They're blipping so he doesn't exist.
Yeah, apparently the storyline's more to do like with his relationship with his father and all that kind of stuff. So I don't really know if it's because there was rumblings of a remaster at one point, right?
Yeah, of the whole Greece trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I don't know. Maybe they're gonna do a remaster and then like a fourth game or something, or a reboot or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, it sounds like it could be a prequel.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear, I don't think that this is anything as they allude to. I don't think this is like a direct response to people not liking Atreus. I think it's God of War. Like, it's about the God of War, Kratos. So there's only so much you can do in terms of swapping out protagonists, playable characters and stuff. I just think that there's, to a certain extent, not a lot of flexibility when it comes to that. But I think it also doesn't sound bad at all. I like the idea that God of War in this recent iteration has been sort of this broader story exploring the relationship between father and son, of course, with Kratos being the father and Atreus being the son, and them figuring out their relationship, learning to trust each other and grow. And as a father myself, I really appreciate and connect with that story. So I think thematically it makes perfect sense to go and explore the same dynamic but reversed, with Kratos as the son and of course his father as the father character. It could be really interesting to explore the topics of Kratos, how he was raised as a Spartan warrior. There's all sorts of things, of course, they could revisit, such as his relationship with Ares, who is of course his former mentor, let's just say. Mentor feels like too gentle a term, but yeah, if you know the story of Kratos, you know what I mean. I think this could be really interesting and compelling. I think they might have to do some rewrites based on my understanding, at least, of the lore as it is right now. But if it's a good rewrite or if it's a good alteration or tweaking, I can live with it. But I find it intriguing. I lean forward, I sit up when I hear this concept explored, which I would be here for. If it actually is like a spin-off Lost Legacy Miles Morales size game, maybe around like 15 hours or so, 15, 20 hours. And it's more of like a $50 game. It's much tighter, much more focused and lean. I'm all in for that. I think that sounds really, really interesting and cool. But like I said, this is all just speculation. I mean, we're literally just kind of guessing, trying to connect dots between different leakers. And some of these leakers, just a matter of months ago, were saying that we were getting a Greek collection. Now they're saying, well, maybe we don't. Maybe we still do though, but maybe we don't. But I do know they're working on a spin-off like prequel game, but they're also still doing Egypt. So who knows exactly what's happening? But all I do know is that it all sounds pretty good to me. Because here's the deal. If I get my Egypt game at any point in the next half century, I will consider myself very happy. I will die happy. I will be totally content because I just want more games exploring Egyptian mythology and all of that. So I'll be happy either way if we eventually get that. And anything on top of that is just icing on the cake. My personal gut feeling, and Corey, if you're watching this, please feel free to DM me and let me know if I'm right. He's not going to do that, to be clear. My personal guess with all of this is that they probably eventually do a Greek collection. Is it a remaster? I would be surprised if it is, frankly. Like maybe they do some tweaks, but I think it's more of a collection like what they did with Legacy of Thieves, or like the Mafia collection where they put all the Mafia games together. Something like that. I mean, it might have some bells and whistles and tweaks, but I don't think it's going to be like a full remaster, or certainly not a full remake. I do think it makes sense to do a smaller spin-off game. I do think that that's been signaled a number of times from Sony's executive suite, specifically during earnings calls and stuff, saying that they have a lot of upcoming games, some of which are smaller in scope and a little tighter in terms of their budgets and things like that. I think it makes sense if they were to do that. And I also think it makes perfect sense if they are working on a massive pivot to a new saga set in Egypt, or at least with Egyptian mythology. It makes sense they'd have to do a lot more groundwork to get ready for that with all new assets, as I outlined earlier. I mean, everything has to be redone. There's almost nothing from the Norse saga of games that could be copy and pasted over to the Egyptian one. So they'd have to start completely from scratch, which I appreciate because it makes those games really fresh and exciting, but it's a lot more work and takes a lot more time for sure. But of course, there's always the possibility that all of this is just complete and utter nonsense. And perhaps they are working on a new God of War game that is set in a setting none of us expect, like the Mayan Empire or something crazy like that. And that's all that there's going to be. And that's fine. You know, we'll deal with that when we come to it. But nonetheless, you know what? It's fun to speculate and let our imaginations run wild, and also read articles from people that claim they know information that they might know. They might also just be making up. You never really know. But let me know what you think of all of this in the comment section below. Are you interested in a sort of prequel game exploring Kratos' story and his relationship with maybe some father figures in his early life? Or do you want them to just get straight to the point, go to ancient Egypt, or, you know, explore Egyptian mythology? Or do you want them to do something totally out of left field? Let me know in the comments, because I'm sure you have some crazy, wacky ideas, and I'm here for them. Also, everybody put in the comments what you think Cory Barlog's next game is, because I don't think God of War. I think he's doing something totally different and totally new. So put that in the comments, because if he ever sees this video, I'm sure he's going to read those and die of laughter at how wrong we are. So put those ideas down below. Or who knows, maybe one of you gets it right, and like we're all shocked when they reveal it. That could also be really cool. So put those thoughts below, those ideas. But with all that said, thank you for watching. I love you all desperately, and I'll see you again very, very soon, hopefully with a more recovered throat, since I'm finally starting to kick this sickness. But until then, my friends, much love. I'll see you soon. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.